Raging brush fires in several parishes across the island caused significant disruption in a number of sectors, including education and the judiciary, while placing severe pressure on the Barbados Fire Service's resources. Smoke and ash from the fire caused the closure of at least 6 schools, among them the Lester Vaughan Secondary and Welch's Primary in St. Thomas, as well as Combermere, the Springer Memorial, Charles F. Broome Primary and Harrison College in St. Michael. The disrupted smoke also impacted the delivery of justice in some courtrooms. The District D Magistrates Court complex at King Garden St. Thomas, which includes the District D Magistrates Court and the District F Belle Plaine Magistrates Courts, had to be closed. Other parishes heavily affected included St. George, St. Philip and St. Lucie. In the forefront of dealing with this fiery situation was the Barbados Fire Service. And joining us now to talk about the response is Chief Fire Officer Errol Maynard. Good evening to you, Mr. Maynard.
Good evening, Wendy, and good evening to Barbados.
Now, give us an idea of how large these wildfires really were. I mean, we've gotten reports from a few parishes captured with our cameras, but how bad was it really today?
Oh, today we had approximately 14 major grass fires from the parish of St. Lucie to Christchurch, including St. Philip. These fires burnt acres and acres of grass. They damaged people's property. A couple of carriers were damaged. We had a number of, with at least 2 sheds. A workshop was also damaged as a result of these fires today. And it has caused our resources to be stretched right to the end. Matter of fact, we had to employ our command staff to go up there, give up their offices and go up there and fight the fire today because of the magnitude of this fire. And it's been disrupting not only our normal operations, but a number of businesses. And in the communities, at least one community in Lucie, they lost most of the grass that they would have been using for their animals. One other farmer, I think they had issues with their chicks, but we were able to save that particular establishment. And there, basically, we're losing a lot of teaching time for the schools. Businesses are disrupted, and it's putting extreme stress on the resources of the Barbados Fire Service. And we definitely want persons dry times to avoid burning.
Okay, now this burning, Chief, how much of it is by individuals seeking to rid themselves of the cowage versus how much might just be accidental as a result of the heat and maybe glass thrown into the bushes or some sort of explosive liquid, what have you, once the heat gets to it?
But we are not convinced that much of it is of a spontaneous combustion, because we are having these fires in the night also. We believe strongly that it is human intervention. And in most of the areas where the fires are starting, there is no evidence that it is spontaneous combustion. We believe that persons are trying to clean in the area. We believe that some persons are trying to get rid of courage. We have had many calls for persons trying to get rid of leaves, and they said that you would hear from the person say they were burning only a small bit of rubbish or leaves or tree cuttings, and it will get out of control because once the wind starts to blow, the place is very dry and the spark can even get into an adjacent field and you do not recognize it, and when you get the wind, the fire starts to burn and you don't know it, then it's out of control, and that is a problem for all of us. So we personally are not convinced that any of it is a result of spontaneous combustion because of the time of the day, even at night when these fires are occurring.
Okay, now you mentioned that it has been a strain on your resources, but what about the overall health of the officers and the individuals in some of the communities? Did you encounter any major issues in terms of smoke inhalation, asthma attacks? Did you have to respond to those things and call the ambulances, what have you?
Well, in both cases, let me speak to the community first. In St. Lucie today, there were two elderly persons that had to be evacuated. I think the St. Lucie DEO there implement evacuation in a particular area because of the amount of smoke that was in the area, and a number of persons had asthma or who suffers from asthma. We asked them to, if they're impacted, to leave their homes and go to a safe area until the smoke subsides. So it is definitely impacting on these individuals. As a matter of fact, even in my office, which is in the center of Bridgetown, we also had our office filled with smoke at one particular time. So it is impacting all over Barbados. Then on the fire officer side, they have to work for a whole day. Some of them without being fed, so we had to take rations for them in the field throughout the day. Yesterday, we had to do it last week. We had to do it again this week. And that type of around the clock working so hard is not good for the health of the officers. But they are committed and they are trying their best to protect Barbados. But we really need the public to stop the burning.
Okay, thank you so much, Chief, and I wish you and your officers well going forward. As we mentioned earlier, the fires also caused several schools to close early. To give us a better sense of the impact on the education system is Chief Education Officer Dr. Ramona Archer-Bradshaw. Good evening to you, Doctor.
Good evening, Wendy. Good evening, Barbados.
Now, you're smiling a bit now, but I'm sure you weren't earlier when we had to be putting all these closures into effect and getting all the teachers to round up parents.
Yes, it was a difficult task for us today. We had to close about 8 schools. The staff and the students were complaining for itchy eyes, irritated noses. Some of the children and staff members had respiratory illnesses, and as a result, they had to leave the compound quickly. So, of course, we had to manage that situation. You never plan for these things to happen, but you need to have a plan in place. And what we do, we always ensure the safety of our staff and our students, and we operate based on the advice of our experts. You just spoke with him, the Chief Fire Officer, Errol Maynard. We communicate with him regularly, and he will tell us whether the fire is under control, how many acres are burning, and we'll make the decision whether we should keep schools open or whether we should close schools. But for us, Wendy, the closure of a school is always a last resort, and it has to be something very serious for us to take that action.
No, this isn't the first week that has been happening off and on. And the Les Vaughan School in particular, I believe like last week they had about 2 of them. What plans are in place in terms of a backup that should you hear of the fire overnight, you can quickly switch to online so there's not that much downtime in terms of teaching?
Well, our teachers are very resourceful. And as you are aware, we had 2 years of COVID where teachers were using the online platform. So they do have resources online. Many of our students also have devices. Of course, there may be a few students who may need to obtain devices, and if that is the case, then they will notify the principal, who will, of course, notify the Ministry of Education, and we will make provision where that is possible. But we will have a plan with regard to ensuring that the students can access the online classes where possible. But in the meantime, when we do have to close, I'm going to appeal to all parents and all guardians to ensure that your children have the required medication in the cases of respiratory illness, and also make sure that there is a plan for swift collection of the children, or for the children to make their way quickly to a safe location that is off campus. When these things happen, the first thing that we have to look at is the safety of the staff and the students. And then after that, we will give instruction with regard to the online classes and the online learning. But we want to make sure that it is safety first.
Okay, I want to thank you so much for ensuring the safety of all the little ones across the country. And let's hope that this week there are no more fires.
Keeping my fingers crossed, Wendy.